Welcome back to the United Pubcast, and not just back, Larry, not just welcome back to the United Pubcast. More importantly, in my opinion, Manchester United are back. I know there's been a resurgence under Eric Ten Hag and the group of players in terms of Manchester United look like we're on the right track. But getting back on the right track is moments like this in terms of stamping your authority. We didn't park the bus against Barcelona and get through on a lucky decision or a counter-attacking goal. Over the two legs, I think we deserve to go through against the best team in Spain. And ultimately, that tells me from where we've been to where we are now, Manchester United are back. And on this Friday morning here in Sydney, I couldn't be happier, mate.
If you couldn't quantify what being back is, it's definitely this. If you had to look at it, if it passes the eye test, this absolutely passes the eye test. Tom, what a performance! Manchester United. I've got to say, and you know what makes it even more impressive? When you look at the teams man for man, United have no right, and it just shows what a manager Eric Ten Hag is. I mean, generally we'll come on here and we give credit. This player was really good. This player got us over the line. Eric Ten Hag got us over the line in this leg, and he should put his hand up. Mate, I'm telling you, there's something special brewing at Manchester United with that beautiful Dutchman.
Well, you mentioned him there, and I remember the first or the second game a couple of weeks ago against Manchester City when we went 1-0 down. I said, if Manchester City go 1-0 up, we're not coming back. I said, if they score, the game's over. They score, Manchester United came back. Then, well, he's done something magical there, both him and the players. And this one here, I said, at half-time, I said, at Old Trafford, in these sort of big crunch games, these big moments, at Old Trafford against Spanish oppositions, we won't come back from a game like this. You just picture in your mind an Atletico Madrid or a Sevilla or something like that. I thought at 1-0, Barcelona were going to drain this game, especially with the way the referee was handling things. I thought 1-0 down at halftime, I did not see a way back. I had faith in Eric Ten Hag and the players, but I just thought maybe it was a step too far, and I just thought there was no way back at halftime. I've already envisaged how the game would go in terms of time wasted, Manchester United panicking, sort of getting in the referee's face and sort of distracting themselves from sort of what was needed. And ultimately, I was proven wrong. And where was I proven wrong? Was it in terms of, was it the substitute from Eric Ten Hag to bring Antony on and change the dynamic? I'm not sure. But ultimately, both players and managers do need to take 100% credit. And look, I'm just over the moon. We're going to discuss a little bit later, probably the Carabao Cup final, and maybe that's an even bigger game, which is hard to sort of fathom at the moment. But both Georges are in the chat. Good to see you, lads. G'day, lads. Good win. I think it's more than a good win, mate, but I do get your sentiments. And George is all over in London at the moment. Good evening, guys. I know I'm sneering towards the Europa League, but always great to knock Barcelona out and send them back into financial turmoil. It's a huge defeat for Barcelona, no doubt. And ultimately, you did mention at the start there, Larry, in regards to, we allude to them being the best team in Spain at the moment. I know we look at Real Madrid and what they did during the week at Liverpool, thank God, but ultimately the league ladder doesn't lie. Barcelona are the best team in Spain. And as I said, look, when we were the best team in the world, when we went to Barcelona in 2007, 2008, we parked the bus. So I wouldn't say we're lucky to go through, but yeah, we're kind of lucky to go through for a Paul Scholes rocket. I know Cristiano missed a penalty in the first leg, but ultimately we went there, gee, Barcelona are the better team. Let's see what we can get. Ultimately, in these two legs, Eric Ten Hag, the players went and said, stuff what you are. Okay, you might be leading the league in Spain, but we're Man United, and we played on the front foot, and we took the game to them. And ultimately, I think we were rewarded with that by going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, full credit has to go to Eric Ten Hag here. Because these same group of players, you alluded to that at the start of your statement, Tom. When Manchester United versus Spanish sides, traditionally, we struggle. Sevilla, Atletico Madrid last season absolutely played us off the football pitch. And you look at the difference in performance just 12 months later. Eric Ten Hag has revolutionized Manchester United, which I know sounds really extreme to say revolutionized, but he honestly has. It feels like a different football club, the way the fans feel. Let's just forget the football game for a moment. Can we just say before kickoff, you could hear the speakers coming through your TV screen. Old Trafford was bouncing. It felt like a big game. Eric Ten Hag said it in the pre-match. All eyes of Europe are on this football match. Manchester United's a massive football club, and he's found a way to turn around the culture. But crucially, he's tactically got Manchester United competing with Spanish sides that we've traditionally struggled with. You and I have been on here before, and we've made the point. If you think of traditional, successful Manchester United sides, you think counter-attacking football, wingers holding the flank, going wide, hitting the Cristiano Ronaldo at Arsenal always comes to mind away in the 08-09 season. Manchester United traditionally have been dominating sides, but when it came to Spanish sides, or at least in Europe, counter-attacking sides, Eric Ten Hag has found a way to make Fred a goal scorer in a winning tie against Barcelona. Now, I know you're laughing at that, but it just says everything about Eric Ten Hag. He's got every single player performing to their potential. He's squeezing 5-10% additional out of them. He's got us systemically set up so we're able to counteract the attacking threats that Barcelona do have. Now, granted, they missed two key players today, but again, I can't believe that performance, because with all due respect to these group of players, I hated half of them last season. 12 months ago, I wanted to sack all of them. And the way that Erik ten Hag has got man for man, you've got Frankie de Jong, you've got Frank Kessie in the midfield, and you've got Fred and Bruno on the right, and you've got Dutch Scott McTominay playing in the 10 who gets hooked at halftime, and he just finds a way to get it done. He's a phenomenal manager.
If you are happy with what Erik ten Hag is doing and the miracles he is working, please do leave a like on the video. There's that good meme walking around in terms of Erik ten Hag's not just this great manager, he's an effing liar. At the start of the season, or his last interview with Ajax said coaches can't work magic, and ultimately he is working absolute magic. I think this is Matt here. Good to see you, mate. Fantastic result, 100%. And Emad, good to see you as always. Looking forward to catching you up for the League Cup final in a few days. Good morning, my minions. I think we'll get your opinion on Bruno Fernandes, because I think he's going to start a lot of the sort of start 11 discussion in that first half. It all centered around Bruno Fernandes, an early missed chance, and then the penalty. I don't think he can have any complaints. So he's on the right-hand side as well. So just on the start 11, before we get into the ins and outs of the games and the 3-2-1s, Larry, that start 11, I didn't predict Fred in my pre-match sort of preview, but I kind of, in the back of my mind, said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because we haven't seen Casemiro against Sabitzer yet, or sorry, with Sabitzer. So we thought, is Erik ten Hag going to throw that in for the first sort of pairing in a game like this? I'm not quite sure. So I wouldn't be shocked if Fred plays. Fred did get the game, and ultimately then it throws up that interesting dynamic in that front four where Weghorst sort of plays Sancho, dropped into the number 10, Bruno Fernandes was on the right. So first of all, what did you make of the starting 11? And then ultimately follow that into the first sort of start of the match where Bruno could have put us 1-0 up, then ultimately puts us 1-0 down.
Oh, Bruno. I've seen a lot of criticisms around the referee, by the way. I'm sure we'll get into that. Oh, there's 69 in the comments. You know what that means, Tom? It's sexy time in Manchester tonight. But no, in all seriousness, I've got to say, when we look at the 11, I know Bruno on the right, and I put out the comment on our Instagram. Is Bruno best off the right? Is it his new position? I personally don't think that this experiment is a long-term solution. We obviously saw Antony, a natural right-hand player, come in, and obviously what an impact he had. We'll get into that. But I think the Bruno on the right experiment needs to end. I think we need to find longer-term solutions, and I think we will.
Is it an experiment, or is Erik ten Hag seeing something that we're not?
I think he's absolutely putting a square peg into a round hole with Bruno on the right. Obviously, his delivery is top class, and that's why you can utilize him there. But fundamentally, I think the problem with Bruno on the right is he's not known for his dribbling. He's not quick. He's just not that kind of player. When I think of Bruno Fernandes, I think of a player who can get on the ball from deep, get on the ball centrally, and he's got the ability to shoot short range, long range, good free kick taker. You want him in the center of the pitch, and you saw his impact in the second half. He sets up Fred for the goal. So I got to say, I think Wout Weghorst at the moment is the weak link, and I don't want to be too critical. I love his work rate. He works hard, but we know he's a stopgap, and we know he's not a Manchester United caliber player. So in terms of the 11, you can't be too critical, because I think what we have available, we don't really have a great depth. What I will give criticism, though, is the selection of certain players in certain areas. Can I ask you, I know we won the game, but it is important that we dissect this, Tom. Sancho in the 10, I thought he was anonymous. I don't think it worked, and he looked a lot better when he got moved to the left-hand side.
Yeah, but probably. But I also put that down to you and I both called for Jadon Sancho to play in the 10. Because I think he's looked very sharp in the number 10 since he's come back into the squad. And could we just put this down to just one of those games? He had an off day against a world-class opposition in Sergio Busquets sort of thing. So yeah, he's a little bit off the pace in that position today. But ultimately, I didn't see flaws in his traits.
Is it with Sancho? I actually think 10 is probably his best spot, but could I make the point, maybe he's a good number 10 when you're dominating the ball. When Barcelona are going to dominate the ball, then you don't want him there. Because
I thought a huge thing today was me. I try and watch the game, but whenever Sergio Busquets is on the field, I've mentioned this in the last couple of podcasts, whenever he's on the pitch, I love watching him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And ultimately, yes, against Barcelona, while we did take the game to them, it is quite a defense-heavy approach to a game. And Sergio Busquets and Jadon Sancho in the same area of the pitch is very much a defensive job for Jadon Sancho, not just attacking.
You know who had a good game for Barcelona? Frankie de Jong. And if you're talking about Manchester United needing a number 8, man, I'm telling you, I think United should be all over that. If you can put I had this debate with you last week. If you put Frankie de Jong next to Casemiro, does it work? I'm not 100% sure. But when you look at the caliber of player Frankie de Jong is, if there's an opportunity to get someone like that, you just have to do it.
Well, you could see Eric Ten Hag's approach to Frankie de Jong. I would have been man marking. I would have put Fred on Sergio Busquets, but Eric Ten Hag put Fred on Frankie de Jong. Sort of followed him around the pitch, and Frankie de Jong was still able to find those pockets and get away. And ultimately, that shows how much Eric Ten Hag, we know he does value him. He chased.
Can I say, Tom, we've got a Liverpool fan in the comments. I've got all the time for that. Yasin, if you've converted, welcome to the brighter side of the red, brother.
No, you just need some European football. But yes, I'm good to have you here, Yasin. I hope you enjoyed Spanish football this week in terms of Real Madrid and Barcelona coming to the British shores. But Emad here as well. Barcelona were better in the first half. Sancho didn't get a look at 10 in the first half. And I think ultimately it comes down to as well a huge case of that Barcelona are good in terms of especially the way they did play in the first half. And as I said, halftime, I thought United were going out, not through any sort of horrible wrongdoing from Manchester United. But Barcelona are a good team. But ultimately, is there anything else in regards to that starting 11 or in the first half? The Bruno penalty, look, it's a dive, but it's a penalty. Bruno's stupid. He can have no complaints. While the guy shouldn't fall over. If that's a Manchester United player at the other end of the pitch, we're screaming for him to go over and be awarded a penalty. So obviously the referee fell for it, but Bruno can have no complaints. De Gea almost came up big, lost his balance a little bit in the run-up. That throws another discussion in regards to stuttering during a run-up, if it's allowed or not allowed. I have no issue with it, but some people would. Anything else in regards to the first half or that starting 11 before we get into the exciting bit?
Oh, rip straight into the exciting bit, Tom. I don't want to talk about the first half. I'm here for the second half. Let me put this to you, and let me ask all those in the who are watching right now. Now that we've beaten Barcelona, do you give a toss about winning the Europa League? As far as I'm concerned, we've won the Europa League. You want to win this trophy?
Yeah.
I would obviously be ecstatic if we won it, but do I care? I mean, I'm not going to blink twice.
Well, we've got Arsenal and Juventus both in there now, or still in there now, so it'll be very interesting.
Oh, knock out Arsenal, please. And then I don't care what happens after.
Arsenal or Pogba's Juventus if Pogba finds his pair of boots.
Pogba doesn't play football anymore. Pogba's just there to look pretty, get fancy haircuts, and hype up the player we thought he was going to be. That's what Paul Pogba's good for. But other than that, I absolutely want Arsenal. Get Arsenal, smack them about, show them that they're just pretenders because that's what they are. They're not going to win the league, let's be honest. And they're going to bottle it. And let's help them. Let's help knock their confidence a bit and knock them out of the Europa League, I say.
Well, let's crack on with before we get into 3-2-1, the second half and the goals and everything. Eric here, I thought Arsenal were out. No, well, Arsenal didn't have to play in this round of 32. Good to see you, mate. But because they topped their group, they go through to the round of 16. So I'm not sure if Manchester United, if there's country protection in the next stage, if we can face Arsenal or not. But Arsenal did get this round off, and the reason Barcelona, because they dropped down from the Champions League into this stage. Matt here saying, when can we call him Sir Ten Hag? To be honest, I was calling him Sir Ten Hag at Christmas. Anthony here, loving the live chat, boys, and pick up the Brazilian superstars doing the business for us. Yeah, ultimately, our Brazilian Reds did prove the difference. I'm sure they will dominate the 3-2-1s because without those goals, Barcelona go through. So it's one of those things. And Sam as well, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. United are back, and Ten Hag is the man 100%. If you do agree with that, please do leave a like on the video. If you are new, hit that subscribe button. Now, ultimately, Larry, halftime, I'm thinking we're going out because Manchester United, the evidence I've had over the last couple of years, struggle when we're losing at home to Spanish opposition. But ultimately, Eric Ten Hag changes it, takes Wout Weghorst off, puts Antony on the right, maybe provides a little bit more balance. Ultimately, the goal comes from Bruno Fernandes in the middle, finds Fred, our Brazilian magician in midfield. And Fred on his right foot from the edge of the box, nothing but net, never in doubt.
Oh, too good. What do you say about it? Look, on Bruno, he had a mixed game, didn't he? Bruno had a very Fred-like performance. He obviously gave away the penalty, which I got to be honest, I thought it was a penalty. I mean, the guy, like the Barcelona player, goes down fairly easily. But in saying that, you can't have your hands all over players like that. You know what it reminded me of? Chris Smalling. Do you remember Chris Smalling? He loved the jersey grab, Chris Smalling. But look, Bruno Fernandes. Sorry, you're referring to Antony's goal. In the second
Fred, the first one. We'll start on. I want to get in Antony in a little bit.
When Fred shoots, the thing I love about Fred. So there was in the first half, Casemiro plays the cross to Fred. Fred shoots first time, but then the commentator says, was he trying to cross or was he trying to shoot? I think he was trying to cross, but because it was so close to being on target, Fred likes to pull the face as if, see, I'm Brazilian, I've got the skill set, I can do it, and that's Fred. If you actually look at how he shoots that ball, so if you think of he goes low. Back of the net, short side of the keeper. When you're going to go for that, Tom, you'd normally side foot it. Fred smacks it with his laces. I'm telling you, there is no shot that bloke hits that is intentional with like, oh, I want to go bottom left or I want to go top right. There is no intention about anything he does. He shoots and hopes, and when he scores, he just pulls the big smile out as if it was what he intended to do. And I'm here for it. I love it.
Look, no one's been more critical of Fred on this podcast than me, but I think it's a little bit harsh. Like, yes, it's not a sort of textbook finish, but I think his sort of options were a little bit limited in terms of, one, the touch. Bruno, I don't even think Bruno was really playing Fred. He might have been playing Fred. I think Bruno might have actually been playing Antony further out on the right side. It's come at Fred at 100 miles an hour. He's taken his touch on his right foot. Fair play to him. And a neat finish. So I think a little bit harsh there on Fred, but ultimately a huge goal. And what did you make of Fred's performance? Because ultimately, Eric puts here in the chat, Fred has cemented his place over Sabitzer. It's an interesting one. As I said, I wasn't shocked Fred getting the nod in this game, but I think that's in regards to potentially Sabitzer and Casemiro not having that chemistry. Fred ran himself into the ground. Now, ultimately, these are big games, cup finals. Eric Ten Hag will prioritise them all. I have a feeling Fred might not be rested, but he's done his job now. Now Sabitzer will come in for the cup final. That's not dropping Fred or Sabitzer's over Fred. I just think squad management, we've still got big games coming up in a big season. I think Sabitzer will now come in for Fred because Fred absolutely ran himself into the ground. So what do you make of that Fred and Sabitzer comment from Eric, and also Fred's performance besides the goal?
Look, Fred, you know what you get. And if you're not going to have the ball, Fred's the kind of player you want in there. And you and I have debated numerous occasions, Scott McTominay or Fred. And look, at times it's not really fair to even compare them because they are different players, I would argue. But this is why, Tom, that Fred is favored, because McTominay can't get around the way Fred does. And that's not a criticism of McTominay. It's Fred's obviously a smaller, more diminutive body shape. And because of that, he's more agile and mobile and he can get around. And when he plays with Casemiro particularly, I imagine the Brazilian is sitting there barking at him in Portuguese, telling him where to go, where to be. Because if you get Fred in the right places, he absolutely runs amok. I can't count. He frustrated me at times, Tom, because the amount of times he'd intercept the ball, but the heavy touch and it would bounce off him. Particularly in that first half, Fred got himself into some great positions. He intercepts the ball. He's tenacious. You have to like his energy. There's not another player in United's midfield at the moment who can offer that energy that Fred does. So he's good, fit for purpose. But I will say, as we evolve under Eric Ten Hag and as we become a side that can dominate the ball, I think you'll see Fred's position in the team be diminished over time.
It's interesting. And look, as I said, I don't think Fred will be dropped for the cup final, but I just think in regards to the context, I think Sabitzer might come in. And then maybe against a team like Newcastle, where potentially they will park the bus a little bit more. Or not the Barcelona park the bus, but we will have a little bit more dominated possession. Maybe is the right thing. Borche, good to see you from the football capital. Make sure you go out. Subscribe to them. Fennel here, good to see you, mate. Fred performance outstanding. I'm sure he'll be definitely in with a shout of the 3-2-1s. Now, before we get into the 3-2-1s, Larry, I know you do have to head off soon, so we'll try and wrap things up pretty shortly. But ultimately, the game changer in substitution, Antony. That finish from Antony, look, ultimately, it looks a fairly straightforward finish. And yes, you do back him to sort of hit the target at least from there. And ultimately, he has done that. But a huge skill. I'm sure everyone's watched the reverse angle. I'm off to watch the highlights another 100 times before I go to work. But he's curled it into that far corner. One of the hardest skills to do is to get that curl on a ball. Now, he hasn't sort of whipped it like Di Maria did a few hours earlier. If you haven't seen the Di Maria goal, go check that out. But he has curled the ball into the bottom corner. But ultimately, to hit that on the, I wouldn't say volley, but when the ball's in the air, to get curve on the ball when it's in the air, it's an unreal skill. And not only unreal skill, but to do that on that occasion, on that stage, for Manchester United, adds weight to that. So ultimately, the goal from Antony, I urge everyone to go back and look at it and just sort of appreciate the skill on show, but ultimately a huge moment for him. He did have his arrival moment against Arsenal, which was huge. But other than that, this one, Antony is now a Manchester United player, in my opinion. He needed this. And not needed, in my opinion, but in regards to the shit he's copped online, in regards to the fans and the media attention towards him, he needed a big moment. And my God, he delivered.
Well, scoring against Barcelona at Old Trafford's definitely going to help, isn't it? I actually thought Antony had a good game today. And I got to be honest, Tom, I'm not surprised. I thought if you look at his dominant performances for Ajax, and he's a very much a European continental player at the moment. And I think the adjustment for Antony is adjusting to the pace of the Premier League. But in terms of ability, it's all there. And this is what's been so frustrating about him. But, he's a young player, and that's why I've stopped short of saying things like sell him or he's not good enough or anything like that. I think it's outrageous to say anything like that at this point in time. But good performance today. I think the most crucial thing, and it's almost, you feel frustrated to almost say this, he offered balance. Bruno, obviously, like we said, not a dribbler, not noted for pace, not noted for going past people. Antony just offered something different. And if you're a defender and you've just been blocking the cross, now you've got someone who's more inverted. It's a different way of thinking. You got to adjust to that. He had a good game, great goal, and Antony, wicked left foot. We know that. Sometimes it's a bit too one-dimensional, but when he gets it right, there's not many better. And he absolutely banged it in today, and I'm happy for him. Good on him because it was a crucial goal.
Yes or no? Starts the cup final?
Antony, I think so, yeah. I think so.
I think he starts now. And I think potentially, besides the goal now, he'd definitely have to because his confidence will be flying. I think probably in line anyway to start that cup final. But Tad here, what a second half from the lads. This team finally has a mentality and character mixed with a world-class manager, 100%. Make sure you do leave a like if you agree with that comment, which I'm sure you do. And now, Larry, 3-2-1s. If you do have to head off, just jump off and I'll carry on. But Fred here, Emad going Fred man of the match today for 3 points, in my opinion. Look, Fred's hard to look past there in regards to he's obviously got a huge goal and obviously he was on there for the 90 minutes contributing to the performance. For me, the change, and I almost have to split the points between Antony and Erik ten Hag, but that change from Erik ten Hag to bring Antony on and the dynamic, it could have been anyone. He could have brought Garnacho on, he could have brought Sabitzer on, whoever on that right wing to change that dynamic of that front four, I think ultimately changed the game. And Antony, in my opinion, a match-winning goal at Old Trafford against Barcelona in European football, for me, that's my 3 points. But if someone wants to say Fred, get your comments in for 3-2-1s. But Larry, you're thinking?
No, I'd go for Fred because ultimately, if the first goal is what gets Barcelona back on the attack, I think we were finding them quite frustrating. And again, credit to Ten Hag for adjusting the front four and everyone's positioning there. But Fred's the one that gets Barcelona back to halfway so we could actually attack him. And got to say, what credit it is to Manchester United, Barcelona went behind the halfway line and got all their players behind the ball. Just think how far we've come for that to happen, yeah? But anyway, before we digress too much, Fred gets the crucial goal that gets Barcelona further forward so the likes of Antony has space to then score the winner. I take your point, but if you look at the entire 90 minutes, man, Fred, unreal. And we give him a lot of shit, Tom, and rightfully so, it has to be said. But when he gets it right, he gets it right. And because we give him so much shit, let's give him some praise today. Fred was absolutely crucial to United going through. Fred for 3 points for me. You know what? It might be an all-Brazilian 3-2-1 today.
Well, we'll get that. Well, look, if you're going Fred for 3 points, I won't disagree. I'm pulling rank and giving Antony 2 points there, which I don't think you'll disagree either. Then ultimately, yes, he could throw Casemiro for a point in there. Let's hope his ankle's okay. Got a little bit of a knock from Lewandowski at the end. Casemiro's experience in there, I think he was sloppy at times with the ball, but ultimately his experience in that midfield, I thought, proved absolutely crucial. But George here saying Varane for 1 point, his goal line clearance at the end. Yes, match winning. It's like a penalty save, and also Taddy saying man of the match for these Martinez of Varane. The defenders as well. Look, in regards to points, I have to lean with what George is saying there in regards to Rafael Varane goal line clearance at injury time. Ultimately, were we going to clear it potentially? I'm not sure. Ryan here as well. Rafael Varane, 2 for Fred and 1 for Antony. So ultimately, in my opinion, Rafael Varane, he simply needs points in regards to the way we judge these. Emad here, sorry, no points for Casemiro. Varane or Martinez worthy of a point. Yeah, Casemiro, I thought sloppy on the ball, but ultimately, I agree with Emad there in regards to maybe not quite enough, a little bit disappointed at times, but ultimately what he brings, would we have won that game without Casemiro? I think if he wasn't there and we lost, I think we would have said, well, we would have won if Casemiro was there. So ultimately, I think his presence was pivotal. But we'd look at the performances from Lisandro Martinez, and ultimately, Tad here saying 3 for Rafael Varane as well. Ultimately, we'd look at Casemiro's experience. Rafael Varane's the same experience, if not more. And I'm thinking ultimately, I'm going Fred for 3, Antony for 2, and Rafael Varane for 1.
Yeah, I'm good with that, 100%. And look, the thing is, because we're debating 3-2-1s, that's a good place to be in. It means we had a lot of good players on the pitch today, which we absolutely did. So full credit. And you know what was really pleasing about today's result? Marcus Rashford wasn't in a position to score. They kept him fairly quiet, and United still found a way to get it done. And I think that's a really positive sign for this team.
Yeah, something I didn't really give any thought, but you do mention it, 100%. It'll be interesting, Casemiro and Rashford's fitness in terms of both taking knocks, both played out the match, but it will be very interesting to see what happens, fingers crossed.
Rashford will 100% play. I think Casemiro will play too. I think they'll just inject both of them and get him out there. I mean, look, I think winning a trophy, beating Barcelona is massive, but trophies are something you can physically hold, and United need to beat Newcastle, because if we don't, this whole positive feeling this week just goes down the drain. You've got to get that trophy.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I'll cheer with a shout. I'm going to have to go back and watch all the videos and highlights, but great to see Sir Alex celebrate when Antony got his goal. Man of the match was Fred for me. Yeah, that reaction when we did see Sir Alex reacting, it was a genuine reaction. He definitely was over the moon. And ultimately, Sir Alex Ferguson did have one great moment against Barcelona, but they did prove a little bit of a thorn in his side over the years. So I'm sure Sir Alex did enjoy that. And is there anything else before we do wrap up, Larry? We'll obviously discuss the Carabao Cup final in more detail a little bit later on. But in regards to this match, before we do wrap up, any talking points?
Any talking points? We're on our way to 2,000 subs, Tom. That's the talking point.
Yeah, so make sure there are a few in the chat. Please do hit subscribe if you are new. Be very much appreciated. It's free. You're holding your phone, just one button, click it. Very much appreciated. Make sure you do leave a like for Eric Ten Hag's Reds because, as I said, even if we went out today, let's say Lewandowski puts one in the top corner and you think, oh, what can you do? Ultimately, it's just good being a Manchester United fan at the moment. If we lost today, I would have said, yeah, disappointed, a little bit gutted, but ultimately we've got something to look forward to on the weekend. Where years ago, if we lost on midweek, oh God, we've got a game we're likely going to lose or drop points or be disappointed again on the weekend. But that's not the case. We have a weekend where we look forward to Manchester United winning a trophy and playing good football and exciting us. And ultimately, that's what we sign up for as Man United fans. We don't sign up for 3 points. We sign up to feel good. And they're giving us that at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, Eric, I can't, Tom. Honestly, if you don't hit stop on this video, I'm going to sit here talking about Eric Ten Hag. I'm probably going to undo the top button on my pants because I just love that man. He's just doing phenomenal things with Manchester United at the moment. The feel-good factor, that's the thing. We've been second under Jose Mourinho. We've been second under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This feels different. This manager, he's got the potential to be something special. Every time he does anything, Tom, you feel it. You see the photo of him at dinner with Sir Alex Ferguson. It feels natural. It feels right. Oh, it's exciting times.
Definitely, 100%. And Ryan here will finish on this one. Antony's definitely scoring at Wembley. I wouldn't put it past him. I fancy that bet. I might go down and put Antony first goal scorer or scorer any time. I do fancy that. But we will discuss the preview or the Carabao Cup final tonight, fingers crossed. So make sure you are subscribed. As I said, on our way to 2,000 subscribers. If you could hit that by the end of the season, that would be an amazing achievement, even more amazing than what the job Eric Ten Hag is doing. As I said at the start, I'm sure we've all seen that meme. He's not just a wonderful manager, he's an effort liar in terms of, he said what coaches can't work magic, but he does. So if you do like Eric Ten Hag and what he's doing, please do leave a like on the video. Leave all your comments in the section below if you're watching on playback. And Larry, enjoy your Friday, and we'll chat a little bit later before we preview an even bigger game and the trophy up for grabs.
Can't wait, mate. Oh, happy days. Happy Friday to all the listeners. And yeah, we'll catch you soon.
Catches. Have a good one. Stay up.